Jason, tell me what's going on here. Who have we got here?
This is the monster from the glowworm segment. This is first a mock-up that we did a while ago when this project first came up.
Right.
And we were madly putting this together just to sell it. Like, we really want to do this. It's going to be great. Here's the size and everything like that. So we got that far, and then they killed it.
They killed
temporarily.
the bit.
And then they've come back again saying, oh, by the way, we want that. And we had this just up on the shelf. So we brought it back down. And Joel did a little bit more work to get it prepped to the next step so that we could then take photos saying, do you like the scale? Do you like how it works, how it functions? And just to give them an idea of where we're going.
Sure, and then that'll hopefully lead to the approval that you guys
Yes.
get to skin it and all of that.
Exactly.
Now, when you say you were excited to bring it down, is it like there are characters that you're like, you would get excited about playing with?
Well, there are. This is from some of the original bits that he did back on
Yeah.
Ed Sullivan's show, and they were some really wonderful segments. You know, Jim Henson and Frank Oz played off of each other just so beautifully. And this crazy character, which at the beginning of it you think is just a little tiny worm that a character is going to eat,
Yeah.
it turns out to be this monster with this lengthy nose. And it's silly, it's fun, it's kind of frat boy humor, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. So we were really excited to put this together.
Am I right that he's it's a little different scale than you most often work on the workbenches?
Yeah, often the puppets are the size of the forearm of a human being because you've got your hand in there, that's what you're controlling, mouth, head, hands, and this is just on that bigger scale, which is always more impressive.
Now, are you working with archival materials for the design?
We're not necessarily putting a modern spin on it, but just sort of bringing it up a little bit, like brightening colors or making them more visually stimulating because this is going to be for a live theater show. So we want them to be able to...
you want it to pop a little more than it might. Because it's got to be seen from far.
Exactly.
Are there mechanical aspects that were chronicled back then that you're replicating, or is there just institutional understanding of how to...
It's kind of institutional understanding because I will say documentation back in the day, it's sort of hit or miss.
And so sometimes you might have to watch the old footage and figure out what they're doing.
Exactly. And to be fair, we have realized this bit a few times over the decades, right? So there is a brighter version of him. I'm not even sure which decade it was. There are photos of this really dark gray one and then this bright one, and now we're kind of going somewhere in the middle, right?
There's a couple of characters I cosplay as, and one specifically Chewbacca, where if you get any little bit of his costume wrong, you're so far off the mark. And I would imagine that for you guys here, that like getting it to the yes, now it's the right thing. That's got to be a lovely procedure.
If you look at the evolution of some of the characters that we've created for other properties, you know, there is a visual difference from when it was introduced to, you know, current time or whenever. And so we allow that evolution, and there are reasons for it, whether they're doing something with the character or materials have changed or something like that. So we allow for that kind of development as long as it functions the way it needs to for the given bit.
Right. Now, I think people would assume like, oh, look, you went and got a character off the shelf. But this is so the early stage, and there are multiple stages of finding a character within this kind of construction. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly something that has been created and is documented at least in kinescope fashion, you know, there's a shape there that we're trying to match. But then there are new characters that are being created for other properties where they bring you a napkin drawing or a beautifully CG rendered, you know, it's somewhere the whole gamut. But you have to bring it from that design, whether it's a 2D page or a 3D animation, to physical 3 dimensions with a puppeteer's hand in it literally or figuratively, you know.
Altering its shape, altering its
Exactly.
form.
So there are certain things about how to make that puppet work for the bit that it needs to do that's what we do, you know.
It's like narrative
because there's a
engineering.
difference between illustration and puppetry, you
Right.
know. So you
Right.
take that illustration and you bring it to life.
So he's really good looking right now.
I love him.
But what are the next stages for him?
Well, on this, actually, as I said, this is a mock-up. So
Yeah.
this is really just for shape, and it's out of very,
Yeah.
inexpensive foam. We have to put more structure in there because everything you add on top of it, such as the fur that will
Oh, gosh,
create the
yeah.
body of it, adds a lot of weight. So
Sure.
whatever you're putting underneath there has to have the structure to support it and really give the weight of that character in motion. This guy, we really only see the head, its very lengthy nose,
Right.
a bit of its neck, and then one big live hand comes in, sweeps the character into his mouth, and then down. And that's it. So it's not a full body.
Right, right.
But
the
we try
implication
to
of
make
a full.
sure that you believe that whole creature
Right,
is
right,
back
right.
there, you know?
Now, how many puppets are you guys getting ready for Puppet Up?
For this one, we're doing the big monster.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of worms that are the teaser before
Sure.
this one. And then also
Are these like the little inchworms? Are they that
that
the little?
is, and actually Joel
Oh,
has.
gosh!
This is a mock-up of what those are.
Can I
'Cause-
see? Can I?
Of course.
Oh my God! This was literally like a moment when like 6-year-old me was like, I think I understand how that works. I just totally remember.
That's the whole process. It's everybody going, how do we make this work? And so normally when we're doing these are just raw dyed foam,
Yeah.
colored, painted, whatever to get the stripes. But because of the demands of live theater, we wanted to do a sample of covering it in fabric to help protect it. Hopefully it will last longer. So Joel quickly made a fabric covering and just with marker put stripes on just to see if it would work. And you see how it's got a nice movement to
It does have a wonderful mood. He's got a lot of personality.
Exactly. So we feel good about being able to do
Yeah.
that, put a fabric covering on it so that it won't just rip in half after the first show. But, you know.
That is so awesome. You were saying how many puppets you're getting ready.
Right.
The worms,
So,
yes.
so we have
There you
the
go.
3, because they're the main character that is eating the worms beginning is something they already have. So we're
Okay.
making the monster
All right.
and the 2 worms. And then for a second bit, business, we have 4 characters that are being worked on. And we have the 2 business puppets, which are, you can see the bodies here, the yellow and green.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see their
And
mouths.
those are the heads that are not yet covered. They're underway. The one with the 2 spherical eyes on it has a cash register mech. And we kind of have to wait for the mech to be done so
fair
that we can
enough.
install it and then cover the head and add it in. So those are the 2 business puppets. And then the love puppets, we have Aaron here working with these light bulbs.
I'm loving this light bulbs.
He has done the file work to make the 3D printing of that entire unit.
This is 3D printed.
That is 3D printed.
What's the material?
Laser sintered nylon.
Oh, I love nylon.
Yeah, it's the
Yes.
best.
I had not tried it translucent, and that translucent quality is beautiful.
Both love puppets have this unit on the top of their heads, and Joel is working on the covering that goes on them as well. They're all the same fleece covering.
Yeah.
You'll see that there's this sort
I really
of
like this ribbing. That's
yeah,
the convolute.
it's this sort of spiral-boned dryer vent tube, similar to that, and that sort of moves around. But the heads actually have to pop up
out.
and down.
This seems like it's a really fun sort of dive down through a bit
it's a
of
blast.
puppet history.
Yes, exactly, because those bits, those were kind of America's first introduction to Jim Henson of sorts, because they were early in his career and they were crowd pleasers, you know.
Yeah.
They were wonderful, and that's what led to things like The Muppet Show and
yeah.
Sesame Street, and it was incredible.
When you're researching an ancient mechanism, do you sometimes are there old timers you call up?
Yes.
Do you get a couple phone calls a year with Frank to ask him for questions?
I know it's so unfortunate that we've lost so many of them, but there are still some who had worked with them. Who are still, and those are the ones that we're still working with. Always trying to find new ones. I have to say the Mac people have quite a task, to sort of recreate how these rather simple Macs from a long time with no documentation are realized.
Well,
again.
I mean, I remember Dave Goelz telling me about Gonzo's eyes not working together and that then becoming canon.
Yes.
Right? This slight droop that was not intentional now is intentional.
Exactly, because there's no other way.
And it turns out that's critical to the character. So you have to figure out what those little weird proclivities are that are intrinsic to the character.
Very, very true.
Wow.
Very true.
What a thrill. Thank you so much for walking me through this. It's really amazing. I got to touch a worm.